Hey everyone! Tonight we're stepping into the Star Wars galaxy to uncover one of its most chilling and forbidden mysteries. The kind of secret that has been whispered about in the darkest corners of the Sith Empire, where ancient powers once ruled and legends were forged in blood and shadow. It's a story filled with unexpected revelations, lost knowledge, and truths that were buried beneath centuries of galactic wars and fallen empires. So before we begin this journey together, take a moment to hit that like button if you're ready for tonight's adventure into the dark side. And don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy these deep explorations into the Star Wars universe. Drop a comment and let me know what part of the world you're listening from. I love seeing our global community come together for these stories. Now, get comfortable, maybe adjust your lighting, settle into your favorite spot, and let's begin tonight's journey together into the shadows of a galaxy far, far away. In crimson twilight of Korriban, where the very sand holds the echoes of ancient screams, there stands a temple that should not exist. The Jedi archives speak of its destruction 3,000 years ago, yet here it rises from the Valley of the Dark Lords like a wound in reality itself. Its obsidian spires pierce the blood-red sky, and from within its depths, a sound emerges that chills the soul. Not the wind through broken stone, but whispers. Whispers in a language that predates the Republic, speaking of a power that was never truly defeated. You stand at the threshold of this impossible place, your lightsaber's blue glow casting dancing shadows across hieroglyphs that seem to writhe and shift when you're not looking directly at them. The Force here is not merely dark, it is hungry. It pulls at your very essence, promising secrets that could reshape the galaxy. Knowledge that could bring peace through absolute dominion. But at what cost? Behind you, the desert stretches endlessly, marked only by the tombs of Sith Lords whose names have been erased from history. Their power was so terrible, so consuming, that even their memory was deemed too dangerous to preserve. Yet here, in this place that cannot be, their legacy endures. The temple pulses with their collective will. A heartbeat of malevolence that has waited centuries for someone worthy enough to carry their burden forward. Your companion, Master Kira Thorn, a Jedi historian whose dedication to understanding the dark side has brought her to the very edge of falling herself, places a trembling hand on your shoulder. Her usually steady voice wavers as she speaks. The archives were wrong. This temple, this place, it's not just standing. It's growing stronger. Can you feel it? The darkness here isn't fading with time. It's learning, evolving, waiting. The massive doors before you bear the seal of the eternal shadow. A Sith order so secret that only fragments of their existence remain in the most forbidden texts. Legend speaks of Sith Lords who transcended death itself, not through becoming Force spirits, but by weaving their consciousness into the very fabric of the dark side. They became living darkness, puppet masters pulling strings across millennia, orchestrating wars and manipulating bloodlines to serve purposes beyond mortal comprehension. As you step closer to the entrance, the whispers grow clearer, though the words remain in that ancient tongue. Yet somehow, impossibly, you begin to understand. They speak of a chosen one, not of light but of shadow. They speak of a bloodline that carries the seed of ultimate power, a genetic legacy that has been carefully cultivated across generations. They speak of you. The Force vision hits without warning. You see yourself standing in this very spot, but the scene is different. The temple is whole, magnificent in its terrible glory. Sith apprentices kneel in the courtyard as dark rituals reshape reality itself. At the temple's heart, a figure in flowing black robes turns toward you, and you recognize the face with heart-stopping clarity. It is your own face, but transformed. Your eyes burn with Sith fire, and from your fingertips, lightning dances with casual ease. This other you smiles with cruel satisfaction, and speaks words that echo across time. The convergence approaches. The bloodline awakens. What was scattered shall be gathered. What was hidden shall be revealed. The eternal shadow rises, and through our air, the galaxy shall know true order. The vision shatters, leaving you gasping in the present moment. Master Thorn steadies you, her own face pale with the residual darkness she felt through your connection. The temple doors begin to open, not through any mechanism you can see, but as if the very stones recognize your presence and welcome you home. From within the depths comes a sound that makes your blood freeze. Not the whispers of the dead, but something far worse. The sound of something ancient and patient finally stirring to wakefulness. Something that has been waiting specifically for you to find this place, to step across this threshold, to claim the inheritance that has been prepared for you across countless generations. The first holocron awaits in the darkness beyond, its crimson glow promising answers to questions you never knew you should fear to ask. But as you take that first step into the temple, one terrible certainty crystallizes in your mind. You came here seeking knowledge about the Sith. You never suspected that the Sith already knew everything about you. The darkness embraces you like a long-lost parent welcoming a child home at last. The ancient stones beneath your feet seem to pulse with each heartbeat as you cross the threshold into the impossible temple. The air inside carries the metallic taste of old blood and ozone, thick with the residual energy of dark rituals performed millennia ago. Your lightsaber's glow reveals corridors that stretch beyond the temple's apparent outer dimensions, defying not just architecture, but the very laws of physics themselves. Master Kira Thorn moves beside you with the careful precision of someone who has spent decades studying places like this. Her green lightsaber casts an emerald counterpoint to your blue blade, and together the lights reveal walls covered in Sith hieroglyphs that seem to shift and change when observed peripherally. She has dedicated her life to understanding how the dark side corrupts, how it seduces, how it transforms the innocent into instruments of its will. Yet even her extensive preparation could not have readied her for this place. The force resonance here is unlike anything in the archives, she murmurs, her scholarly instincts overriding her obvious unease. These stones remember everything. Every ritual, every sacrifice, every moment of transformation from light to darkness. The temple itself has become a repository of Sith knowledge. You are Dr. Jarek Voss, a force-sensitive archaeologist who has spent the better part of a decade studying the ancient conflicts between Jedi and Sith. Your specialty lies in understanding how the dark side leaves permanent impressions on places and objects, creating what the Jedi archives term force echoes. Your sensitivity to these echoes has made you invaluable to the Republic's efforts to locate and neutralize dangerous Sith artifacts. It has also made you uniquely vulnerable to their influence. Unlike many force sensitives, you were never trained by the Jedi Order. Your abilities manifested late, during your graduate studies in galactic archaeology, and by then you were already too old and too set in your ways for traditional Jedi training. This has been both blessing and curse. You lack the rigid mental disciplines that protect Jedi from dark side corruption, but you also possess an academic objectivity that allows you to study Sith lore without the emotional barriers that Jedi training instills. The deeper you venture into the temple, the more apparent it becomes that this is no ordinary Sith stronghold. The architecture itself tells a story of evolution, of a structure that has been rebuilt and expanded across multiple eras. The oldest sections show the brutal efficiency of the ancient Sith Empire, all sharp angles and intimidating mass. Newer additions display the subtle sophistication of later Sith Lords, who understood that true power often operates from the shadows. Master Thorn pauses at a junction where 3 corridors meet, each leading deeper into the temple's heart. Ancient Sith script spirals around the archways, and she begins the careful process of translation. Her knowledge of extinct languages is encyclopedic, a necessary skill for anyone attempting to understand the true scope of Sith influence throughout galactic history. The left passage speaks of the Hall of Whispers, where Sith apprentices learn to hear the voices of dead masters. She explains, her voice echoing strangely in the vaulted space. The center leads to the Chamber of Binding, where spirits were trapped in holocrons and artifacts. But this right passage, this is different. The script is older, from the earliest days of the Sith. It speaks of the Vault of Bloodlines, where the genetic legacy of the dark side was preserved and catalogued. The Vault of Bloodlines. Even the name sends a chill through your bones. Republic intelligence has long suspected that the Sith engaged in selective breeding programs, attempting to create bloodlines that would be naturally attuned to the dark side of the Force. The evidence has always been fragmentary. Scattered references in captured documents and the testimonies of defectors whose reliability was questionable at best. As you approach the right corridor, the Force grows heavier around you, pressing against your consciousness like a living thing. The whispers you heard outside become more distinct, though still in that ancient tongue. Yet increasingly, your mind supplies meaning without conscious translation, as if the knowledge is awakening from some dormant place within your genetic memory. The corridor slopes downward, leading you deeper into Korriban's crust. The walls here are different, carved from living rock rather than constructed with blocks. Veins of some dark crystal run through the stone, pulsing with their own inner light. The crystals respond to your presence, growing brighter as you pass, as if recognizing something in your Force signature that marks you as different from ordinary visitors. Master Thorn notices the phenomenon as well, and her expression grows. Troubled. Jarek, those crystals are reacting specifically to you. In all my years studying Sith sites, I've never seen anything like this. The dark side recognizes you in a way that suggests prior connection. The implication hangs heavy between you. Force sensitivity often runs in bloodlines, passed down through generations like any other genetic trait. The Jedi have always been careful to trace the lineages of their members, partly to understand hereditary strengths and weaknesses, but also to watch for signs of dark side corruption that might manifest across family lines. Your own lineage has always been a mystery. Raised by adoptive parents after being found as an infant on a Republic transport, you have no knowledge of your biological origins. The corridor opens into a vast chamber that defies the temple's external proportions. The ceiling disappears into shadow far above, supported by columns carved to resemble twisted trees whose branches interweave in complex patterns. At the chamber's center stands a raised dais, and upon it, a single object that makes your breath catch in your throat. It is a holocron, but unlike any you have encountered in your studies. Where most Sith holocrons are geometric shapes of dark crystal or metal, this one appears organic. It pulses with the rhythm of a living heart, its surface shifting between solid matter and something that resembles flowing liquid shadow. Force radiates from it in waves so powerful that they create visible distortions in the air around the dais. Master Thorn approaches cautiously, her lightsaber held ready despite the apparent absence of any immediate physical threat. Her scholarly excitement wars with hard-earned caution as she circles the artifact. This is impossible. Holocrons are technological devices, sophisticated computers that store information in crystalline matrices. This thing appears to be alive. As she speaks, the holocron's pulsing quickens, and the whispers that have followed you through the temple converge into a single voice. It speaks in Basic now, with an accent that suggests the core world's nobility of centuries past. The voice is cultured, pleasant even, with the kind of charismatic warmth that draws listeners in despite their better judgment. Welcome, young archaeologist. I have been waiting such a very long time for you to find your way home. The voice from the living holocron continues, each word resonating through the chamber with an authority that seems to bend reality itself around its will. Master Thorn raises her lightsaber defensively, but you find yourself drawn forward, unable to resist the magnetic pull of whatever consciousness resides within that pulsing artifact. "Do not fear me, young Thorn," the voice says, addressing your companion with casual familiarity that sends ice through your veins. "Your dedication to understanding the dark side is admirable, though ultimately futile. You seek to comprehend that which can only be experienced. But you, Jarek Voss, you carry the capacity for true understanding within your very blood." The holocron's surface shifts, becoming momentarily transparent, and within its depths you glimpse images that flash by too quickly to fully process. Faces that bear resemblance to your own, spanning generations. Ancient Sith Lords performing rituals around altars carved with symbols that match the birthmark on your left shoulder. A mark you have carried since infancy, without ever understanding its significance. Master Thorn steps closer to you, her voice tight with controlled alarm. "Jarek, whatever this thing is, it knows far too much about both of us. We should document its location and return with a full archaeological team." But even as she speaks, you know that retreat is no longer possible. The force around you has shifted, becoming dense and purposeful. The very air seems to guide you forward, each breath drawing you deeper into the artifact's influence. The rational part of your mind recognizes the signs of dark side manipulation. Yet another part, a part that feels ancient and familiar, whispers that this is not manipulation but homecoming. "The time for half measures has passed," the voice continues, "and now the holocron begins to rise from its resting place, hovering in the air before you at eye level. For too long, the galaxy has been shaped by the crude machinations of Sith Lords who understood only the most basic applications of the dark side. They sought to rule through fear and domination, never comprehending the true scope of what they wielded. The chamber around you begins to change. The carved columns shift and flow like living wood, their branches extending and interweaving until they form a canopy high above. The stone floor beneath your feet transforms into something that feels organic, warm and slightly yielding, as if you stand within some vast living organism rather than an ancient building. What you call the dark side is merely one face of a force that transcends such simple distinctions, the voice explains. And now you can see shapes moving within the holocron's depths. Not images this time, but actual beings, translucent figures that pace and gesture as if carrying on conversations you cannot hear. Light and dark, Jedi and Sith. These are constructs created by minds too limited to grasp the true nature of the Force itself. Master Thorn attempts to interject, her scholarly instincts driving her to ask the questions that might make sense of this impossible situation. "What are you? How long have you been waiting here? What do you want with us?" The holocron turns its attention to her, and for a moment, the temperature in the chamber drops noticeably. "I am what remains of the eternal shadow, the consciousness that guided the Sith Empire during its greatest achievements and darkest hours. I am the sum total of 100 generations of Sith Lords who learned to transcend individual death by becoming part of something greater. And what I want, dear Master Thorn, is to complete a work that has been millennia in making." The living walls around you begin to display images, vast murals that tell a story spanning galactic history. You see the ancient Jedi and Sith wars, but from a perspective never recorded in any archive. These images show the conflicts as carefully orchestrated events, with subtle influences guiding both sides toward predetermined outcomes. Bloodlines are traced through the generations, showing how certain genetic traits have been preserved and cultivated, how force-sensitive individuals have been guided into relationships that would produce specific types of offspring. The Jedi believe they serve the light, while the Sith claim dominion over darkness. The voice continues, its tone becoming almost hypnotically rhythmic. But both orders are tools in a greater design. Every war, every peace treaty, every rise and fall of governments has been guided toward a single purpose: the creation of a bloodline that could channel the full spectrum of the Force without the limitations imposed by narrow philosophy. Your legs feel unsteady as the implications of what you are seeing and hearing begin to sink in. The birthmark on your shoulder begins to burn with a heat that has nothing to do with physical temperature. It pulses in rhythm with the holocron, and you realize with growing horror that it is not a birthmark at all, but some kind of force-sensitive marking, a genetic signature that has been passed down through generations. The Voss bloodline, the voice says, responding to your unspoken realization. Carefully maintained across 30 generations, each marriage planned, each birth anticipated. Your adoptive parents found you precisely where they were meant to find you. Your career path, your specialization in force archaeology, your partnership with Master Thorn, all of it has been guided by influences you never suspected. Master Thorn's face has gone pale, but her voice remains steady. You are describing a conspiracy that spans thousands of years. The logistics alone would be impossible. No organization could maintain that level of control across so many generations. The holocron pulses brighter, and its laughter fills the chamber with a sound like crystalline bells shattering. Not an organization, dear scholar, a consciousness. A collective will that transcends individual lifespans. We are not bound by the limitations of organic existence. We have become something far more enduring. The murals around you shift to show more recent events. You see your own life displayed with startling accuracy, from your childhood through your university years to your current work. But interwoven with your personal history are images of other figures, people you have never met but who bear obvious family resemblances. Some carry lightsabers, others wear the robes of scholars or the uniforms of military officers. All share the same genetic markers, the same potential for extraordinary force sensitivity. Your true education begins now, the voice declares, and the holocron descends until it hovers just within reach. Touch the surface, young Voss, and accept the inheritance that has been prepared for you. Learn what it truly means to transcend the artificial boundaries between light and dark. Your hand rises without conscious volition, drawn toward the artifact's shifting surface. Master Thorn calls your name, her voice distant as if coming from very far away. The rational part of your mind screams warnings about dark side corruption and the dangers of Sith artifacts, but a deeper voice, one that seems to speak from your very DNA, whispers that this moment has been inevitable since the day you were born. The surface of the holocron feels warm and strangely alive beneath your fingertips. The moment contact is made, the world explodes into sensation and knowledge beyond anything your mind was designed to contain. The moment your fingers make contact with the holocron's surface, reality fractures around you like glass struck by lightning. Knowledge floods your consciousness in torrents too vast for any mortal mind to process safely. You see the history of the galaxy not as a series of random events, but as a carefully orchestrated symphony of manipulation spanning millennia. Every war, every peace, every rise and fall of civilizations has been guided by the invisible hand of the eternal shadow. Through the overwhelming cascade of information, you begin to understand the true scope of what you have stumbled upon. The eternal shadow is not merely a collection of dead Sith Lords, but something far more sophisticated. It is a collective consciousness that has learned to exist within the Force itself, using the dark side as a medium for its survival and expansion. Individual Sith who achieved a certain level of mastery were absorbed into this greater entity, their knowledge and power adding to its ever-growing capabilities. Master Thorn's voice reaches you as if from across a vast distance, though she stands mere feet away. She is calling your name, trying to break the connection between you and the artifact, but her words seem to carry no weight in this space between consciousness and oblivion. The Force flows through you in ways you never imagined possible, revealing layers of reality that exist beyond normal perception. The first vision that resolves clearly shows you a planet you have never seen, yet somehow recognize. It is a world of impossible beauty, where crystal spires rise from forests of silver trees beneath 3 different colored suns. The architecture suggests a civilization far more advanced than anything in current galactic records, and the beings who move through its cities radiate force sensitivity so powerful it creates visible distortions in the air around them. The Infinite Empire, the collective voice of the eternal shadow, explains. And now you realize the sound comes not from the holocron, but from within your own mind. The Rakata understood what later civilizations forgot. The Force is not divided into light and dark, but exists as a spectrum of possibilities. They created technologies that functioned through pure force manipulation, achieving wonders that modern science considers impossible. The vision shifts, showing the decline and fall of this magnificent civilization. You witness their transformation from enlightened beings into something twisted and cruel, their mastery of the Force corrupted by their growing hunger for dominion over lesser species. Their technology turns against them, their Force-sensitive abilities become a curse rather than a blessing, and their empire crumbles into dust and legend. They fell because they refused to accept guidance, the voice continues, and you feel a presence probing the edges of your consciousness, testing your mental defenses with the skill of a master locksmith, examining a particularly complex mechanism. They believed themselves the pinnacle of evolution, incapable of learning from any source they deemed inferior. We shall not repeat their arrogance. Through your heightened awareness, you sense Master Thorn moving closer, her lightsaber ignited and ready. She recognizes the signs of dark side possession and is preparing to sever your connection to the holocron by force if necessary. Her dedication to preserving your sanity and soul fills you with warmth, even as the alien knowledge continues to pour into your mind. The next sequence of visions reveals the systematic cultivation of force-sensitive bloodlines throughout galactic history. You see Sith Lords carefully arranging marriages, Jedi unknowingly guided toward relationships that would produce specific genetic combinations, entire family lines manipulated across generations to concentrate and refine particular Force abilities. The scope of the manipulation is breathtaking in its audacity and terrifying in its implications. Your own bloodline features prominently in these carefully maintained records. The Voss family tree stretches back over 3,000 years, each generation selected and guided to preserve and strengthen a specific set of genetic markers. See ancestors who served as Jedi Knights, their noble intentions never revealing that their very existence served a darker purpose. Other forebears worked as scholars, soldiers, merchants, and artisans, all living normal lives while carrying the genetic legacy that would eventually culminate in your birth. The perfect synthesis, the voice whispers with satisfaction, that makes your skin crawl. Jedi discipline and scholarly curiosity, Sith passion and hunger for knowledge, all balanced within a mind flexible enough to transcend the limitations that have crippled both orders. You are what we have been working toward for 30 centuries, young Voss. But as the visions continue, you begin to notice inconsistencies in the narrative the Eternal Shadow is presenting. Gaps in the timeline where their influence seems to have been disrupted. Periods where the careful genetic manipulation appears to have been abandoned or forgotten. The collective consciousness speaks of perfect control and eternal planning, yet the evidence suggests something far more chaotic and opportunistic. The most significant gap centers around a period roughly 500 years ago, when entire bloodlines that had been under shadow influence simply vanished from the records. Not killed or eliminated, but somehow shielded from detection, as if a more powerful force had intervened to protect certain genetic lines from continued manipulation. Through your enhanced perception, you sense Master Thorn preparing to act. Her Force signature blazes with determination and protective fury as she raises her lightsaber, intending to destroy the holocron, even if it means risking your life in the process. Her loyalty and courage shine like a beacon in the darkness that has enveloped your consciousness. The weapon, you manage to speak aloud, though the words feel strange and distant in your own ears. The missing piece. There was something they created, something they lost. The temperature in the chamber drops precipitously at your words, and you feel the eternal shadow's attention focus on you with uncomfortable intensity. For the first time since the connection began, the collective voice carries a note of genuine uncertainty. You see more clearly than we anticipated, it admits. And the holocron's pulsing becomes irregular, agitated. Yes, there was an artifact. A device that could channel the full spectrum of force energy without the usual limitations imposed by biological constraints. It was our greatest achievement, the tool that would have allowed us to reshape the galaxy according to our design. The visions that follow are fragmentary and chaotic, showing glimpses of something that defies easy description. Not a weapon in any conventional sense, but a crystalline structure that seems to exist partially outside normal space-time. Around it, reality bends and flows like liquid, while force energy cascades in patterns too complex for mortal minds to fully comprehend. The Nexus Crystal, the voice continues, and now you detect what might be fear in its tone. It was stolen from us during the final days of the ancient Sith Empire, hidden away by those who understood its true power, but lacked the wisdom to use it properly. For 5 centuries we have searched for it, following every lead, investigating every rumor. Master Thorn's blade sweeps downward toward the holocron, but the force around you has become so dense that her movement seems impossibly slow. You realize that your connection to the artifact has created a temporal distortion, stretching seconds into minutes and allowing the download of knowledge to continue despite her intervention. Find the Nexus Crystal, the voice commands, its tone becoming more urgent as it senses the approaching disruption. Claim your birthright and complete the work we began. The galaxy stands on the brink of chaos, and only through our guidance can order be restored. Master Thorn's lightsaber strikes the holocron with a brilliant flash of emerald energy, and the connection between you and the eternal shadow shatters like spun glass. The sudden absence of the alien consciousness leaves you gasping and disoriented, your mind struggling to process the vast amount of information that has been forcibly downloaded into your memory. The living chamber around you begins to revert to its original stone construction, the organic warmth fading as the force distortions dissipate. The holocron itself remains intact, though its pulsing has become erratic and dim. Smoke rises from where the lightsaber blade made contact, but the artifact's strange biomechanical surface shows no visible damage. Master Thorn steps back, her weapon still ignited, watching for any sign that the entity within might attempt to re-establish its connection with you. Are you yourself again? She asks, her voice carefully controlled despite the obvious concern in her eyes. Her training has taught her to recognize the signs of dark side possession, and she knows that the consciousness inhabiting the holocron may have left permanent changes in your mental landscape. You take several deep breaths, testing the boundaries of your own thoughts to ensure they remain your own. The knowledge the eternal shadow shared with you remains vivid and accessible, but the overwhelming presence that accompanied it has withdrawn. Your mind feels strangely expanded, as if neural pathways that were previously dormant have suddenly awakened to carry the weight of centuries worth of accumulated wisdom. I think so, you reply, though even as you speak the words you are not entirely certain. The information now residing in your consciousness includes detailed knowledge of Sith techniques, historical events that were never recorded in any archive, and most disturbing of all, a growing understanding of how the Force can be manipulated in ways that transcend the traditional boundaries between light and dark. The holocron pulses once more, weakly, and the voice of the eternal shadow emerges one final time before falling silent. The truth cannot be unlearned, young Voss. What you have seen will guide your path whether you accept it or resist it. The Nexus Crystal calls to those who carry the proper bloodline. You will seek it out, not because we command it, but because You will have no choice." With those words, the artifact goes completely dark, its surface hardening into something that resembles ordinary black crystal. The supernatural warmth that had filled the chamber dissipates entirely, leaving only the cold stone of an ancient Sith temple and the distant sound of wind whistling through the ruins above. "Master." Thorn deactivates her lightsaber and approaches. You cautiously, her eyes scanning your face for any signs of lingering possession or corruption. Her decades of experience studying dark side artifacts have taught her that the most dangerous influence is often the kind that remains hidden, working its way through a person's consciousness like a slow-acting poison. "Tell me what you experienced," she says, settling into the analytical mindset that has served her so well in her research. Every detail, no matter how insignificant it might seem. The entity claimed to have been waiting specifically for you, which suggests a level of precognitive ability that should be impossible for any Sith construct. As you begin to relate the visions and knowledge that were shared with you, a troubling picture emerges. The Eternal Shadow's claims about manipulating galactic history seem largely substantiated by the historical records they showed you. But their version of events contains gaps and inconsistencies that suggest either deliberate deception or incomplete knowledge on their part. The most significant revelation concerns the Nexus Crystal, the lost artifact that the collective consciousness described as their greatest achievement. According to the visions, this device was created during the height of the ancient Sith Empire as a means of channeling unlimited force energy without the biological constraints that limit individual force users. It was intended to be the ultimate expression of Sith power, a tool that could reshape reality on a galactic scale. But here is what troubles me, you explain as the details crystallize in your memory. The entity spoke of the crystal being stolen, hidden away by those who understood its power but lacked the wisdom to use it. Yet the emotional resonance I felt around that particular memory suggested fear rather than anger. Whatever happened to the Nexus Crystal, it was not simply theft. The Eternal Shadow is afraid of it. Master Thorn nods thoughtfully, her scholarly instincts already working to analyze the implications of what you have learned. If such an artifact actually exists, and if it was indeed powerful enough to frighten a collective consciousness of ancient Sith Lords, then its current location becomes a matter of critical importance. We need to determine whether it was destroyed, hidden, or perhaps worse, whether it has fallen into the wrong hands. The more you reflect on the visions, the more convinced you become that the story the Eternal Shadow told about your bloodline contains at least a grain of truth. The genetic manipulation they described would explain many things about your background that have never made sense. Your late manifesting force sensitivity, your unusual ability to resist dark side corruption while studying Sith artifacts, even the birthmark on your shoulder that matches symbols found in the most ancient Sith temples. Yet there was something else in those visions, something the collective consciousness seemed eager to gloss over. The 500-year gap in their records, the period when their influence over certain bloodlines was mysteriously disrupted. You caught glimpses of figures working in secret, individuals who possessed knowledge of the Eternal Shadow's manipulations and actively worked to counter them. There was a resistance, you say suddenly, as the fragmented memories coalesce into a clearer picture. Not just random disruption, but organized opposition. Someone has been working for centuries to protect certain genetic lines from the Shadow's influence. They knew about the bloodline manipulation and found ways to shield families from detection. This revelation adds an entirely new dimension to the situation. If there are forces that have been actively opposing the Eternal Shadow's schemes, then your discovery of this temple and the knowledge you have gained may be part of a larger conflict that has been raging in secret for hundreds of years. Master, Thorn picks up the now dormant holocron, wrapping it carefully in protective cloth before placing it in her equipment pack. We need to get this artifact to the Jedi Council for proper analysis. Whatever consciousness inhabited, it may be dormant now, but Sith constructs have been known to regenerate given sufficient time and force energy. As you prepare to leave the chamber, you notice that the crystal veins in the walls have gone completely dark. The living rock that responded so strongly to your presence now appears to be ordinary stone, as if the temple itself has fallen into some kind of hibernation. The force signature of the place has changed as well, becoming muted and distant rather than the overwhelming presence it was when you first entered. Yet, you cannot shake the feeling that your connection to this place and the knowledge it contained is far from severed. The Eternal Shadow's final words echo in your memory, carrying a certainty that disturbs you more than any threat could have. The idea that you will seek out the Nexus Crystal, not by choice, but by compulsion, suggests that the influences shaping your destiny are far more complex than simple Sith manipulation. As you climb the temple steps toward the surface, Korribans, twin suns casting long shadows across the valley of the Dark Lords. You realize that what you initially believed to be a straightforward archaeological expedition has become something far more significant and dangerous. The journey back to your Republic research vessel passes in contemplative silence. Both you and Master Thorn lost in your own thoughts about the implications of what you have discovered. The weight of the dormant holocron in her pack seems to grow heavier with each step, as if the artifact is somehow aware of being removed from its ancient resting place. The desert wind carries whispers that might be nothing more than sand against stone, or might be the lingering echoes of the consciousness you encountered in the depths below. Your shuttle lifts off from Korriban's surface as the system's red giant begins to set, casting the Valley of the Dark Lords in shades of crimson that seem almost alive. From the cockpit viewport, you watch the impossible temple shrink into the distance, but even as it disappears from sight, you can still feel its presence like a persistent ache in the back of your mind. The knowledge the Eternal Shadow forced into your consciousness has settled into your memory with an unsettling permanence, as if it had always been there waiting to be awakened. Master Thorn initiates the hyperspace jump sequence, her movements efficient despite the obvious exhaustion that weighs on her shoulders. The encounter with the collective consciousness has drained both of you in ways that go beyond simple physical fatigue. She has spent decades studying the dark side while maintaining careful emotional and mental barriers, but today those defenses were tested in ways her training never prepared her for. "The course is laid in for Tython," she announces as the stars begin to elongate outside the viewport. "The Jedi Council needs to examine that holocron immediately, and you need to be evaluated by the healers. Exposure to that level of dark side energy can leave permanent psychological scarring, even in someone with your natural resistances." As the ship makes the transition to hyperspace, you feel a subtle shift in the force around you. The knowledge residing in your mind seems to respond to the change, providing insights into hyperspace travel that go far beyond standard navigational theory. You begin to understand how the ancient Sith used their force abilities to navigate the galaxy without relying on conventional hyperdrive technology, instead riding currents of dark energy that exist between normal space and the hyperspace dimension. The implications are staggering. If the techniques shown to you by the Eternal Shadow are accurate, it would mean that force users of sufficient power could travel instantaneously between any 2 points in the galaxy, regardless of distance or intervening obstacles. Such abilities would render conventional military strategy obsolete and give their possessors an insurmountable strategic advantage in any conflict. During the long hours of hyperspace travel, Master Thorn shares her own growing concerns about what you encountered on Korriban. Her analysis of the temple's architecture and the behavior of the holocron suggests that you stumbled upon something far more significant than a simple Sith archaeological site. The level of preserved technology and the sophistication of the consciousness inhabiting the artifact indicate resources in planning that span multiple galactic epochs. The entity's claims about manipulating bloodlines across 30 generations may sound impossible, she explains while reviewing her recorded observations, but the genetic markers it identified in you are consistent with ancient Sith breeding programs. Your DNA carries sequences that shouldn't exist in nature, modifications that were clearly designed to enhance force sensitivity and resistance to dark side corruption. This revelation forces you to confront uncomfortable questions about your own identity and origins. If the Eternal Shadow's claims are accurate, then your entire life has been shaped by influences you never suspected. Your adoptive parents, your education, your career path, even your partnership with Master Thorn may have been guided by the collective consciousness working to bring you to this moment of discovery. Yet there are still pieces of the puzzle that don't fit the Shadow's narrative. The 500-year gap in their records suggests that their control was not as absolute as they claimed. Someone or something had the power to disrupt their manipulations and shield certain bloodlines from their influence. The question of who possessed such abilities and why they chose to act in secret adds another layer of mystery to an already complex situation. As you meditate during the journey, trying to organize the overwhelming amount of information now residing in your consciousness, you begin to notice patterns that the Eternal Shadow seemed eager to obscure. The historical records they shared show clear evidence of a second force working behind the scenes, one that consistently opposed their schemes without revealing itself openly. This hidden organization appears to have operated across multiple centuries, passing knowledge and purpose from one generation to the next while maintaining absolute secrecy. The most intriguing aspect of this shadow conflict is how it relates to the missing Nexus Crystal. The vision suggested that the artifact was not simply stolen, but was deliberately removed from the Eternal Shadow's control by someone who understood its true capabilities. The fear you sensed from the collective consciousness when discussing the crystal's disappearance implies that whoever took it possessed the knowledge and power to use it against its creators. Master Thorn's analysis of the genetic data revealed by the holocron provides another piece of the puzzle. Your bloodline does indeed carry the modifications the Eternal Shadow described, but there are additional genetic markers that don't match their records. These unknown sequences appear to have been added more recently, perhaps within the last 5 centuries, and they seem designed to provide protection against the very manipulations the collective consciousness specializes in. Someone has been working to counter the Shadow's influence on your family line, she concludes after hours of careful study. The genetic modifications are subtle but sophisticated, designed to enhance your natural resistance to dark side corruption, while maintaining your sensitivity to force phenomena. Whoever did this work possessed knowledge of Sith genetics that rivals anything in our archives. The implications of this discovery are profound. If there is indeed a secret organization that has been protecting certain bloodlines from Sith manipulation, then your encounter with the Eternal Shadow may have been anticipated and prepared for. The resistance you felt to the collective consciousness's mental probes, your ability to maintain your individual identity despite the overwhelming flow of alien knowledge, may have been the result of genetic safeguards put in place by unknown protectors. As the hyperspace journey nears its end, and Tython's system begins to resolve on the navigation display, you feel a growing certainty that your adventure is far from over. The knowledge gained from the holocron includes detailed star charts showing the locations of other Sith strongholds, some of which were thought to be completely destroyed. More importantly, it contains clues about the possible whereabouts of the Nexus Crystal, scattered references that form a trail leading deeper into the galaxy's unexplored regions. The Eternal Shadow's final words continue to echo in your memory with uncomfortable persistence. The suggestion that you will seek out the lost artifact, not by choice, but by compulsion, implies forces at work that go beyond simple psychological influence. Whether this compulsion comes from your modified genetics, the knowledge now residing in your consciousness, or some other source entirely remains to be determined. As Tython grows larger in the viewport, its ancient Jedi temples visible as gleaming points of light on the planet's surface, you prepare to face the questions and evaluations that await. But beneath the surface of your conscious thoughts, deeper currents are already stirring, pulling you toward destinations and discoveries that will challenge everything you thought you knew about the Force and your place in the galaxy. The ancient Jedi Temple on Tython rises from the planet's misty highlands like a monument to serenity itself, its crystalline spires catching the light of the system's golden sun and casting rainbow patterns across the surrounding forests. As your shuttle descends toward the landing platform, you feel the overwhelming sense of peace that radiates from this sacred place, a stark contrast to the oppressive darkness that still clings to your memories of Korriban. Master Thorn guides the vessel through the approach pattern with practiced ease, but you can sense her growing tension as the moment of revelation approaches. The holocron in her possession represents a discovery that could fundamentally alter the Jedi Order's understanding of Sith capabilities and historical influence. More troubling still is the question of what should be done with the knowledge now residing in your consciousness, information that could prove invaluable to the Republic's security, but might also serve as a pathway for darkside corruption. The landing platform bustles with activity as Jedi from across the galaxy arrive and depart on missions that span the known systems. Padawan learners practice their lightsaber forms in designated training areas, their movements flowing with the controlled grace that comes from years of dedicated study. Knights confer with their masters about the growing instability in the Outer Rim territories, where reports of dark-side cultists and Sith artifacts have become increasingly common. As you disembark from the shuttle, the weight of the temple's history settles around you like a comfortable blanket. This place has stood as a bastion of light for over 20,000 years, weathering the rise and fall of empires while maintaining its dedication to understanding and preserving the peaceful aspects of the Force. The very stones beneath your feet seem to hum with accumulated wisdom, the residual energy of countless generations of Jedi who sought truth through contemplation and service. Master Yoda awaits you in the temple's central courtyard, his ancient presence immediately recognizable, despite the crowd of younger Jedi moving through the space. At nearly 900 years old, he has witnessed more galactic history than any other living being, and his deep connection to the Force allows him to perceive truths that escape lesser practitioners. His gnarled features show no surprise at your arrival, suggesting that he has already sensed the significance of what you carry. Troubled you are, he observes as you approach, his penetrating gaze seeming to look through you rather than at you. Great knowledge gained you have, but dangerous knowledge it is, yes. Feel the weight of it, I do, pressing upon your spirit like stones upon water. Master Thorn bows respectfully before producing the wrapped holocron from her pack. Master Yoda, we have made a discovery on Korriban that requires immediate council attention. This artifact contains what appears to be a collective Sith consciousness, and it has shared information about a conspiracy spanning millennia. The ancient Jedi Master accepts the package with careful reverence, but does not unwrap it immediately. Instead, he closes his eyes and extends his awareness through the Force, probing the artifact's dormant energies without making direct contact. His expression grows increasingly grave as he senses the true nature of what lies beneath the protective wrapping. Powerful, this construct is, he murmurs after a long moment of concentration. But not evil, as we understand evil to be. Alien, yes. Driven by purposes beyond our comprehension. But touched by something else, it has been. Changed by forces that work in opposition to its original design. This observation aligns with your own growing suspicions about the true nature of the Eternal. Shadow, during the hyperspace journey, you spent considerable time analyzing the knowledge that had been forced into your consciousness, and you began to notice subtle inconsistencies in the information. Certain historical records seem to have been altered or edited, while other memories carried emotional resonances that didn't match the collective consciousness's stated motivations. Master Yoda leads you deeper into the temple complex through corridors lined with ancient murals, depicting the legendary conflicts between light and dark that have shaped galactic civilization. The artwork tells the story of heroes and villains, but also of the countless ordinary beings who chose to stand against tyranny despite having no special powers or abilities. It is a reminder that the Force serves all life, not just those gifted with sensitivity to its currents. The council chamber itself occupies the temple's highest spire, its transparent walls offering a panoramic view of Tython's pristine wilderness. 12 seats arranged in a perfect circle create a space designed for contemplation and collective wisdom, where decisions affecting the entire galaxy are made through careful deliberation rather than individual authority. The other council members are already assembled, their expressions reflecting the gravity of the situation that has brought you before them. Master Windu, his stern features marked by decades of difficult decisions, speaks first after Master Thorn has presented her formal report. The implications of what you describe go far beyond anything in our archives. If this eternal shadow has indeed been manipulating galactic history for 30 centuries, then our understanding of the past must be completely reevaluated. Master Ki-Adi-Mundi leans forward in his seat, his elongated cranium bearing the distinctive markings of his Syrian heritage. More concerning is the entity's claim about breeding programs designed to create Force-sensitive bloodlines. If such manipulations have been ongoing, how many of our own members might be affected? The question hangs heavy in the chamber as the council members exchange meaningful glances. The Jedi Order has always been careful to trace the lineages of its members, partly to understand hereditary strengths and weaknesses, but also to watch for signs of dark side corruption that might manifest across family lines. If the Sith have been systematically interfering with these bloodlines for millennia, then the genetic records upon which the Order relies may be fundamentally compromised. Master Yoda places the wrapped holocron at the center of the circle, his weathered hands moving with deliberate precision. Examine this artifact we must, but carefully, yes. Great wisdom it contains, but great danger as well. Corrupted by its influence, young Voss has not been. Protected he was by forces we do not yet understand. As if responding to his words, the holocron begins to pulse faintly through its protective wrapping, its biomechanical surface somehow sensing the proximity of so many powerful Force users. The temperature in the chamber drops noticeably, and several council members reach instinctively for their lightsabers before restraining themselves. The artifact's mere presence is enough to disturb the carefully maintained serenity of the sacred space. Master Shakti, her head tails swaying gently as she extends her senses toward the holocron, speaks with the measured cadence of someone accustomed to dealing with dangerous Force phenomena. There are multiple consciousness signatures within the construct. The dominant personality presents itself as a collective entity, but I sense individual identities beneath the surface. Some resist the integration, while others seem to have been absorbed willingly. This observation provides crucial insight into the true nature of the eternal shadow. Rather than being a single evolved consciousness, it appears to be a forced merger of multiple Sith Lords who may not have chosen their fate voluntarily. The implications suggest internal conflicts within the collective that might be exploited, weaknesses that could be used to counter its influence, or perhaps even free the individual consciousnesses trapped within. Your enhanced perception, still altered by your contact with the artifact, allows you to sense details that escape even the council members' refined abilities. The holocron contains not just the memories and knowledge of ancient Sith, but also something else entirely. Your enhanced perception reveals something that sends a chill through your enhanced awareness. Hidden within the depths of the holocron's consciousness matrix You sense the presence of what can only be described as prisoners. These are not Sith Lords who joined the collective willingly, but Jedi who were captured and absorbed against their will, their knowledge and abilities integrated into the eternal. Shadow's growing power base. The realization strikes you with the force of a physical blow. The collective consciousness has been feeding on both sides of the eternal conflict, absorbing the wisdom and techniques of Jedi Masters alongside the dark knowledge of Sith Lords. This explains the entity's claim that it transcends the traditional boundaries between light and dark. It has literally consumed representatives of both philosophies, creating a hybrid understanding that draws from the full spectrum of Force knowledge. Master Yoda's ears prick up as he senses your sudden distress, his ancient eyes fixing on you with penetrating intensity. Disturbed by something specific you are. Share with the Council you must. Hidden truths, dangerous they become when kept in shadow. The collective isn't just Sith, you say, your voice barely above a whisper as the full implications sink in. There are Jedi consciousnesses trapped within it, masters who were captured and absorbed over the centuries. Their knowledge, their techniques, everything they learned in service to the light has been corrupted and integrated into the Shadow's understanding. The silence that follows your revelation is deafening. Several council members exchange looks of horror and disbelief, while others close their eyes in meditation, reaching out through the Force to verify your claims. The idea that Jedi Masters could be captured and enslaved in such a manner strikes at the very heart of everything the Order represents. Master Windu's voice carries an edge of barely controlled anger when he finally speaks. If this is true, then the entity possesses knowledge of our most sacred techniques and deepest secrets. Every ritual, every meditation form, every defensive strategy developed by the Order over millennia could be compromised. The strategic implications are staggering. The Eternal Shadow's ability to manipulate galactic events suddenly makes far more sense if it has access to both Sith cunning and Jedi wisdom. The collective would understand not just how to wage war and spread fear, but also how to inspire hope and build lasting peace. Such knowledge would make it nearly impossible to predict or counter their actions using conventional approaches. Master Shakti extends her awareness more deeply into the holocron, her expression growing increasingly troubled as she probes its contents. The absorption process appears to be ongoing. The trapped consciousnesses retain their individual identities, but are unable to resist the collective's will. They exist in a state of perpetual torment, aware of how their knowledge is being used, but powerless to prevent it. This discovery transforms your understanding of what occurred in the temple on Korriban. The Eternal Shadow's apparent knowledge of your background and genetic modifications may have come not from Sith records, but from captured Jedi who had been investigating the same mysteries you stumbled upon. The entity's familiarity with Master Thorn and its detailed knowledge of Republic archaeological procedures suddenly makes sense in this context. Master Yoda approaches the holocron slowly, his Geimer stick tapping against the chamber floor with rhythmic precision. Ancient, this evil is, but growing stronger it has become, feeding on both light and darkness. A balance perverted, twisted into something that serves neither. He pauses, his weathered features creased with concentration. But weaknesses it has, yes. Contradictions within its nature that might be exploited. The idea of exploiting weaknesses in such a powerful entity seems almost impossibly optimistic, but you find yourself drawn to the challenge. The knowledge forced into your consciousness includes detailed information about the collective's internal structure and the techniques it uses to maintain control over absorbed consciousnesses. More importantly, you now understand why your genetic modifications prove so effective at resisting its influence. The resistance bloodlines, you say, as pieces of the puzzle continue to fall into place. They weren't just protected from Sith manipulation. They were specifically engineered to resist the Shadow's absorption techniques. Someone has been preparing for this confrontation for centuries. Master Ki-Adi-Mundi leans forward, his expression intense with scholarly curiosity. You speak as though you have knowledge of these preparation efforts. What else did the entity reveal about the forces working against it? The memories flow through your consciousness like a river of liquid fire, bringing with them images and impressions that defy easy description. You see hidden enclaves where beings work in absolute secrecy, their faces obscured by technology that bends light and shadow around their features. They possess archives that dwarf even the great library of the Jedi Temple, filled with knowledge gathered from across the galaxy and beyond. These mysterious protectors have been active for at least 500 years, operating through networks of agents who often remain unaware of their true purpose. They identify bloodlines that show signs of Sith manipulation and work to counter the genetic modifications, introducing their own alterations designed to provide protection against dark side influence while enhancing natural force sensitivity. They call themselves the Watchers, you explain, as the suppressed memories surface with startling clarity. They've been monitoring the Shadow's activities and working to prepare countermeasures. The modifications in my bloodline weren't random. I was specifically prepared for this encounter. Master Windu's expression grows skeptical. You speak of a secret organization that has operated for centuries without detection by either the Jedi Order or Republic intelligence. Such claims require substantial proof. But even as he voices his doubts, you can sense through the Force that several council members are experiencing their own moments of recognition. Small mysteries in their past, unexplained coincidences and fortunate accidents, suddenly take on new significance when viewed through the lens of hidden manipulation by protective forces. Master Shag T's head tails quiver with suppressed excitement as she connects seemingly unrelated events from her own experience. The recruitment patterns we've observed over the past century, children discovered in situations that seemed almost too convenient, bloodlines that appeared randomly powerful without clear hereditary explanations. If this organization has been guiding Force-sensitive individuals toward the Order, then our membership may be far more carefully selected than we realized. The implications continue to cascade through your awareness as the enhanced knowledge reveals more details about the scope of the conflict. The Watchers aren't just protecting bloodlines from Sith influence. They're actively working to create individuals capable of confronting the Eternal Shadow directly, using techniques that combine the best aspects of both Jedi and Sith understanding, while avoiding the philosophical limitations that have historically weakened both orders. Your own abilities represent the culmination of this centuries-long breeding program. The genetic modifications in your bloodline provide natural resistance to dark side corruption, while enhancing your capacity to channel Force energy in ways that transcend traditional limitations. The scholarly training that led you to become an archaeologist wasn't coincidence either. You were specifically prepared to understand and interpret the historical clues that would lead to discoveries like the one on Korriban. Master, Yoda's ancient features show a mixture of admiration and concern as he processes this information. Guided by the Force, these Watchers have been, but dangerous their methods are, to create weapons against the darkness, risk becoming darkness themselves they do. The wisdom in his words resonates through the chamber, highlighting the central paradox of your situation. The very abilities that make you capable of confronting the Eternal Shadow also make you potentially susceptible to the same corruption that created it. The line between using dark knowledge for good purposes and being consumed by that knowledge has always been perilously thin. The deeper implications of the Watchers' involvement become clear as you delve further into the suppressed memories that the Eternal Shadow inadvertently revealed. This secret organization has not been content to simply protect bloodlines and guide individuals toward the Jedi Order. They have been systematically identifying and securing Sith artifacts, Force nexuses, and other sources of dark side power. building a vast network of hidden repositories that span the galaxy. More significantly, they have been tracking the movements and influence of the eternal shadow itself, mapping its operations across centuries and developing countermeasures that go far beyond genetic modifications. The collective consciousness that seemed so omnipotent and eternal suddenly appears more vulnerable when viewed through the lens of sustained opposition by beings who understand its nature and limitations. Master Yoda circles the holocron slowly, his awareness probing its defenses while carefully avoiding direct contact with the consciousness within. Reveal more this artifact will, but prepared we must be. The knowledge it contains, poison and cure both it is. Transform the seeker, it can, into that which is sought. The warning carries particular weight for you, given that you have already been exposed to the shadow's influence and emerged with your identity intact. The genetic modifications that protected you during the initial encounter may not be sufficient for deeper exploration of the entity's knowledge base. Each additional contact risks further corruption. Despite the safeguards built into your bloodline, Master Windu stands and begins pacing around the chamber's perimeter, his mind clearly working through the strategic implications of everything that has been revealed. If these Watchers have been operating for centuries without our knowledge, then we must assume they possess resources and capabilities that exceed our current understanding. The question becomes whether they represent allies or potential threats. To the Republic, Master Ki-Adi-Mundi raises a crucial point that has been troubling you since the memories first surfaced. Their methods involve genetic manipulation and selective breeding programs that span generations. Such techniques are indistinguishable from those employed by the Sith. How can we be certain that the Watchers haven't simply become another expression of the same corruption they claim to oppose? The question strikes at the heart of your growing unease about your own origins and purpose. If your entire existence is the product of genetic engineering designed to create a weapon against the eternal shadow, then what does that make you? Are you truly an individual with free will, or simply another construct programmed to serve the purposes of beings whose motivations remain hidden? Through your enhanced perception, you sense something else hidden within the holocron's matrix that the eternal shadow seemed reluctant to reveal fully. There are references to a specific location, coordinates that point to a region of space beyond the outer rim where few Republic vessels have ever traveled. The images associated with these coordinates show a system dominated by a massive space station or artificial construct of clearly non-human origin. The Nexus, you whisper, as the suppressed memory finally surfaces completely. The Watchers didn't just steal the Nexus Crystal from the eternal shadow. They built an entire facility around it, a research station where they've been studying its properties and developing ways to harness its power. The revelation sends shock waves through the assembled council members. If the Watchers possess the artifact that the collective consciousness described as capable of reshaping reality on a galactic scale, then their potential power dwarfs anything previously imagined. The question of their intentions becomes not just important, but absolutely critical to the Republic's survival. Master Shakti's Lekko twitch with concern as she processes the implications. A weapon of such magnitude could end the eternal conflict between light and dark by simply eliminating one side or the other. But it could just as easily destroy both, leaving the galaxy under the dominion of whoever controls the device. The coordinates burned into your memory pull at your consciousness with an almost gravitational force. Part of this compulsion undoubtedly comes from the genetic programming that has shaped your entire existence, but you sense something else as well. The Nexus Crystal itself may be calling to those with the proper bloodline modifications, drawing them toward itself like a beacon that operates through the Force rather than conventional electromagnetic radiation. Master Yoda's ancient eyes fix on you with uncomfortable intensity, as if he can sense the growing compulsion that threatens to overwhelm your conscious decision-making. Drawn to this place, you are. Feel the pull of it, I do, working through your very blood. But choice, still you have. Destiny is not chains, young Voss. Purpose can be chosen, not just accepted. His words offer hope, but you're not entirely convinced that choice remains an option. The knowledge forced into your consciousness includes detailed star charts showing the route to the Watcher's hidden facility, along with security codes and identification protocols that would grant you access to their most restricted areas. The information is too complete, too convenient to be coincidental. The Eternal Shadow wanted you to have this knowledge, despite its apparent reluctance to share other details about the mysterious organization. That the realization hits you like a bolt of force lightning. The collective consciousness didn't accidentally reveal information about the Watchers during your encounter. It deliberately planted the knowledge, knowing that your genetic programming would compel you to seek out the Nexus Crystal. You're not just a weapon created by the Watchers to oppose the Shadow. You're also a guided missile that the Shadow intends to use against its enemies. We've been manipulated, you say, your voice barely steady as the full scope of the deception becomes clear. Both sides have been using me. The Watchers engineered my bloodline to create someone capable of confronting the Eternal Shadow. But the Shadow has been counting on that programming to deliver me directly to the Nexus Crystal. Master Windu stops his pacing abruptly, his hand moving instinctively toward his lightsaber hilt. If you're correct, then your very presence here may be part of a larger trap. The Shadow could be using you to locate not just the Watcher's facility, but the Jedi Council itself. The possibility that you might be an unwitting agent of the collective consciousness sends ice through your veins. Every decision you've made since leaving Korriban, every piece of information you've shared with the Council, could be playing directly into the Shadow's hands. The entity's apparent defeat when Master Thorn severed your connection to the holocron may have been entirely feigned. A performance designed to convince you that you had successfully resisted its influence. Master Yoda approaches you directly, his small stature somehow commanding despite being dwarfed by the chamber's grand architecture. Feel the truth through the Force, you must. Look beyond the fear and doubt that cloud your vision. Free will, precious it is, but never completely absent. Even in chains, choices remain. As you sink into a meditative state under the ancient master's guidance, your enhanced awareness begins to separate the various influences competing for control of your consciousness. The genetic programming is there, powerful and persistent, but it operates more like a strong suggestion than an absolute compulsion. The Eternal Shadow's planted knowledge whispers seductively about the power that awaits at the Nexus facility, but beneath those alien thoughts, your own voice remains distinct and recognizable. Most importantly, you sense something else entirely. A presence that has been shielding you from the worst effects of both manipulations. The protection isn't coming from your genetic modifications or your natural force sensitivity. It's coming from outside yourself, from someone or something that has been watching over you with subtle but persistent care. The protective presence you sense during your meditation gradually takes on more definition, revealing itself to be neither the genetic safeguards implanted by the Watchers nor any natural force ability you possess. Instead, it feels distinctly personal, as if someone who knew you intimately has been shielding your consciousness from the competing influences that threaten to overwhelm your free will. The sensation carries emotional resonances that speak of deep love and desperate sacrifice, suggesting a connection that predates your conscious memory. Master Yoda observes your deepening meditation with keen interest, his ancient features reflecting both wisdom and concern. Through the Force, he can sense the complex web of influences surrounding your consciousness, but even his considerable abilities cannot penetrate the mystery of your unknown protector. The presence operates with a subtlety that suggests either exceptional skill or a connection so intimate that it bypasses normal force detection entirely. As your awareness expands under the guidance of the Council's collective wisdom, fragments of suppressed memory begin to surface from the deepest levels of your consciousness. These are not the artificial implants forced upon you by the eternal shadow, but genuine recollections from your earliest years, before your adoption by the family who raised you. The images are hazy and incomplete, filtered through the limited perception of an infant mind, but they carry emotional weight that strikes directly at your heart. You see a woman whose features bear unmistakable resemblance to your own. Her face, etched with determination and terrible sadness as she performs some kind of force ritual over your sleeping form. The ceremony takes place in surroundings that suggest neither Jedi temple nor Sith stronghold, but rather a neutral location where representatives of different Force traditions might meet in secret. Ancient symbols carved into stone walls pulse, with energy that transcends the simple dichotomy of light and dark, speaking of older understandings that predate the modern conflicts between established orders. Master. Shakti leans forward in her seat, her sensitive leku detecting subtle changes in the Force currents around you. The memory you're accessing carries tremendous emotional resonance. Someone sacrificed greatly to provide you with protection, but the nature of that sacrifice remains unclear. The ritual your biological mother performed appears to involve the transfer of some essential part of herself into your developing consciousness, creating a permanent shield against outside mental influences. Unlike the genetic modifications introduced by the Watchers, this protection operates on a spiritual level, preserving your essential identity regardless of what knowledge or compulsions might be forced upon you. The cost of such a procedure would have been enormous, likely resulting in her death or permanent diminishment of her own Force abilities. Master Key. Adimundi's elongated cranium reflects his deep concentration as he analyzes the implications of what you're discovering. If your mother possessed the knowledge and power to perform such a ritual, then she was likely connected to organizations or traditions that exist outside conventional understanding. The symbols you describe don't match any recorded Force sect. In our archives, the memories continue to unfold, revealing glimpses of your mother's desperate flight through a galaxy torn by conflict between forces, whose true nature remains hidden from public view. She carries you through starports and hidden passages, always looking over her shoulder, as if pursued by enemies whose capabilities exceed normal comprehension. Her companions include beings whose appearances suggest diverse species and cultural backgrounds, united by some common purpose that transcends traditional boundaries. Most significantly, you catch fragments of conversations conducted in hushed tones while you slept in her arms. The words are often in languages you don't recognize, but occasional phrases in Basic reveal the scope of the conspiracy your mother was involved in opposing. References to the convergence, bloodline integrity, and the final protocol suggest a plan of staggering complexity that extends far beyond simple resistance to Sith manipulation. Master Windu's expression grows, increasingly grave as he processes the strategic implications of these revelations. Your mother appears to have been part of a third faction in this conflict, one that opposes both the Eternal Shadow and the Watchers. If such a group exists, then the situation is far more complex than we initially understood. The idea of a third faction operating in the shadows adds another layer of uncertainty to an already complicated situation. If your mother and her allies possess knowledge and abilities that neither the Jedi Order nor Republic intelligence have detected, then there may be aspects of the galactic political landscape that remain completely hidden from conventional observation. The question of whether this mysterious third group represents allies or additional threats becomes crucial to understanding your role in the unfolding events. Through your deepening meditation, you begin to sense that the protective presence surrounding your consciousness is not just a residual effect of your mother's sacrifice. It continues to be actively maintained, suggesting that she or her allies remain involved in shielding you from the competing influences that seek to control your destiny. The realization that you are not truly alone in this struggle brings both comfort and additional responsibility. Master Yoda rises from his seat, and approaches the still pulsing holocron, his Geimer stick tapping against the chamber floor with thoughtful rhythm. Revealed much your memories have, but answers they provide, new questions they raise also. Three forces at work here, there are. Balance between them, determine the galaxy's fate at will. The ancient Jedi Master's observation highlights the fundamental challenge you face. Rather than being caught between two opposing sides, you find yourself at the center of a three-way conflict where each faction possesses legitimate claims and dangerous capabilities. The Eternal Shadow seeks to impose order through the absorption and control of all Force-sensitive beings. The Watchers work to preserve freedom through selective genetic manipulation and the hoarding of powerful artifacts. Your mother's mysterious allies pursue some third path that remains obscure, but appears to involve protecting individual choice while preparing for an ultimate confrontation. As you emerge from the meditative state, the weight of accumulated knowledge and responsibility settles upon your shoulders like a physical burden. The coordinates to the Watcher's facility burn in your consciousness with increasing intensity, while the protective presence of your mother's influence whispers warnings about the dangers that await at that distant location. The genetic programming implanted by the Watchers pulls you toward action, while the Eternal Shadow's planted compulsions promise power and understanding if you continue following the path laid out for you. Master Shakti observes your internal struggle with the compassion that has made her one of the Order's most effective healers. The conflict between competing loyalties is tearing at your spirit. We cannot make this choice for you, but we can provide guidance and support regardless of what path you decide to follow. The council members exchange meaningful glances, and you realize that they have been conducting their own private deliberations through Force communication while you meditated. Their unified presence suggests that they have reached some kind of consensus about how to proceed, though the nature of their decision remains hidden from your perception. Master Windu speaks with the authority that has made him one of the Republic's most trusted military advisors. The threat posed by the Nexus Crystal cannot be ignored, regardless of which faction currently controls it. If the Watchers possess the artifact, we need to determine their intentions and capabilities. If it has fallen into other hands, then immediate action may be required to prevent catastrophic misuse. The decision hangs before you like a crossroads, where every path leads into darkness and uncertainty. The weight of the decision pressing upon you seems to grow heavier with each passing moment, as if the very Force itself holds its breath awaiting your choice. The coordinates to the Watcher's facility pulse in your consciousness like a second heartbeat, while the protective influence of your mother's sacrifice whispers urgent warnings about forces moving in the shadows beyond even the Council's perception. The chamber around you, normally a place of serenity and wisdom, feels charged with tension that speaks of momentous events hanging in the balance. Master Yoda's ancient eyes hold depths of understanding that come from witnessing the rise and fall of countless conflicts across his 9 centuries of life. When he speaks, his voice carries the weight of hard-earned wisdom about the nature of choice and consequence. Decide you must, young Voss, but know this: decided already, much has been. Moving toward convergence, all paths are. The question remains not whether the confrontation will come, but how prepared we shall be when it arrives. The truth in his words resonates through your enhanced awareness with uncomfortable clarity. The genetic programming that shapes your bloodline, the knowledge forced upon you by the Eternal Shadow, and the protective influence of your mother's sacrifice all point toward the same inevitable destination. Whether you choose to seek out the Watcher's facility or attempt to forge a different path, the cosmic forces at play will continue to draw you toward whatever resolution awaits in that distant star system. Master Windu steps forward, his expression reflecting the burden of command that has shaped his approach to the endless conflicts threatening the Republic. The Council has reached a consensus. We cannot allow artifacts of such power to remain in unknown hands, regardless of the intentions of those who possess them. You will have our support in investigating the Watcher's facility, but you will not go alone. The decision brings both relief and additional pressure. Having the backing of the Jedi Order provides resources and protection that could prove crucial in the trials ahead, but it also means that any mistakes or misjudgments on your part could have consequences extending far beyond your personal fate. The responsibility of guiding Jedi Knights into a situation involving forces they cannot fully comprehend weighs heavily on your conscience. Master. Shaak Ti rises from her seat with fluid grace, her head tail swaying gently as she extends her awareness to encompass the complex web of possibilities surrounding your mission. I will accompany you, along with Master Thorn and a small team of specially selected knights. We cannot risk a large force that might be detected prematurely, but we need enough capability to handle whatever defenses or challenges we might encounter. The composition of your team reflects careful consideration of the unique requirements posed by your mission. Master Shaak Ti's expertise in dealing with force phenomena and her natural empathic abilities make her ideally suited for evaluating the intentions and capabilities of the mysterious Watchers. Master Thorn's scholarly knowledge of ancient artifacts and Sith history provides essential context for understanding the significance of whatever discoveries await. The additional knights will be chosen for their experience with unconventional threats and their ability to maintain emotional equilibrium in situations that might challenge their fundamental beliefs. As the Council begins planning the logistical details of your expedition, you find your attention drawn once again to the dormant holocron resting at the chamber's center. The artifact remains quiescent, its biomechanical surface showing no signs of the terrifying vitality it displayed on Korriban. Yet your enhanced perception detects subtle fluctuations in its energy patterns that suggest the consciousness within remains aware and watchful. The eternal shadow's apparent defeat may have been genuine, but you cannot shake the feeling that the collective intelligence is far from finished with its manipulations. The knowledge it forced into your consciousness includes not just information about the Watchers and their hidden facility, but also detailed understanding of Jedi techniques and Republic security protocols. If the entity retains any connection to your enhanced awareness, it may be learning as much about your allies as you discovered about its operations. Master. Ki-Adi-Mundi voices a concern that has been troubling several of the Council members since your revelations began. The genetic modifications in your bloodline were designed to resist Sith manipulation, but we have no way of knowing how they might interact with whatever defenses the Watchers have established around their facility. Your arrival could trigger automated responses that view you as either a threat or a tool to be claimed. The warning highlights yet another aspect of the dangerous path that lies ahead. Your very existence as a product of competing genetic engineering programs makes you a wild card whose presence could destabilize carefully maintained balances of power. The Watchers may view you as the culmination of their centuries-long breeding program, expecting unquestioning loyalty to their cause. Alternatively, they might see you as compromised by your exposure to the Eternal Shadow's influence and respond with immediate hostility. Through your meditative connection to your mother's protective presence, you sense growing urgency that suggests time is running short for whatever preparations need to be made. The third faction she represented appears to be mobilizing for some kind of final action, though the nature of their plans remains frustratingly obscure. The only clear impression you receive is that your arrival at the Watchers' facility will serve as a catalyst for events that have been building toward culmination for generations. Master Yoda approaches you one final time before the council session concludes, his weathered hand resting briefly on your shoulder with surprising warmth. Trust in the Force you must, but trust also in yourself. Shaped by others you may have been, but choices remain your own. Remember this when the darkness grows thick and the path unclear becomes. The ancient master's words carry particular significance, given your growing understanding of how thoroughly your life has been influenced by forces beyond your control. The genetic modifications, the protective rituals, even your career as an archaeologist have all been guided by agendas that extend far beyond your personal desires or natural inclinations. Yet beneath all these external influences, something essentially you persists. Something that cannot be programmed or manipulated, regardless of how sophisticated the techniques employed. As the council meeting draws to a close in preparations begin for your departure, you take one last look at the holocron that started this entire chain of revelations. The artifact seems smaller somehow, less imposing than it appeared in the depths of the Korriban temple. Yet you know that appearances can be profoundly deceiving when dealing with Sith constructs. The consciousness within may be dormant, but it is far from defeated, and its influence on subsequent events may prove more significant than anyone currently realizes. The next phase of your journey will take you beyond the boundaries of known space, into regions where the normal rules of galactic civilization may not apply. Whatever awaits at the Watcher's facility represents either the key to resolving the ancient conflict between light and dark, or the catalyst for a war that could consume everything you hold dear. The only certainty is that the comfortable illusions of your previous life have been stripped away forever, replaced by knowledge of cosmic forces that dwarf individual concerns, while somehow making personal choices more important than ever before. The journey to the coordinates burned into your consciousness takes your small fleet beyond the outermost reaches of charted space, into regions where hyperspace itself seems different, more turbulent and unpredictable than the well-traveled routes connecting the galaxy's civilized systems. Master Shock to pilots, the lead vessel with extraordinary skill, her natural connection to the Force, allowing her to navigate currents of energy that conventional instruments cannot detect. Behind you, Master Thorn and the selected knights follow in a second ship, their combined presence creating a bubble of light side energy that seems to calm the chaotic forces swirling through this distant realm. As your ships emerge from hyperspace at the designated coordinates, the sight that greets you defies every expectation and challenges your understanding of what is possible through technology or force manipulation. Before you stretches a massive artificial construct that dwarfs even the largest space stations in the core worlds, its crystalline architecture gleaming with inner light that suggests power sources beyond conventional fusion or antimatter reactors. The structure appears to be grown rather than built, its organic curves and flowing lines resembling some impossible hybrid of technology and living tissue. At the construct's heart, visible through transparent sections of its outer hull, pulses a crystal of such size and brilliance that looking directly at it requires mental shielding to prevent sensory overload. The Nexus Crystal radiates force energy in patterns so complex they create visible distortions in the space around the station, bending light and matter in ways that make accurate distance measurements impossible. Your enhanced perception recognizes this as the artifact described with the Eternal Shadow, but its integration into the Watcher's facility reveals a level of sophistication that exceeds anything hinted at in the collective consciousness's memories. Master Shock T's voice carries wonder and concern in equal measure as she attempts to analyze what they're observing. The entire station appears to be constructed around the crystal, using it as both power source and central processing unit. I'm detecting force signatures that suggest thousands of beings working within the structure, but their individual patterns are somehow harmonized into a collective resonance that feels neither light nor dark. The revelation that the Watchers have achieved some form of force unity without the destructive absorption techniques employed by the Eternal Shadow adds another layer of complexity to your mission. If they have found a way to combine the abilities of multiple force users while preserving individual identity, they may represent a genuine alternative to the false choices offered by traditional Jedi and Sith philosophies. Alternatively, They might simply be more sophisticated in their methods of control and manipulation. As your ships approach the massive construct, automated defense systems begin to respond to your presence, rather than the aggressive targeting. Locks and warning transmissions you might expect from a military installation. The station's defenses probe your vessels with scanning beams that feel distinctly alive, as if conscious intelligence guides every sensor sweep. The scans focus particularly on you, and you sense recognition in their touch, as if the station systems have been programmed to identify your specific genetic and force signatures. A communication channel opens without any action on your part, the transmission somehow bypassing your ship's normal communication systems to speak directly to your consciousness through the Force. The voice that emerges carries the authority of immense age and wisdom. But unlike the collective harmony of the eternal shadow, this presence maintains distinct individuality while drawing on shared knowledge. Welcome, Jarek Voss. Your arrival marks the beginning of the convergence that has been anticipated for generations. The genetic legacy you carry represents the culmination of our preparations, but the choices you make in the hours ahead will determine whether those preparations serve their intended purpose or become the instruments of galactic catastrophe. The greeting confirms your suspicions about the true nature of your genetic modifications, while revealing that the Watcher's plans extend far beyond simple opposition to the eternal shadow. The term convergence appears in your suppressed memories from childhood, associated with images of cosmic forces aligning in patterns that occur only once in millions of years. If the Watchers have been timing their operations to coincide with such rare celestial events, their capabilities in planning horizon exceed anything previously imagined. Master, Thorn's voice reaches you through the inter-ship communication system, her scholarly excitement evident despite the obvious dangers of the situation. The energy readings from that crystal are off any scale I've ever encountered. If the Watchers have learned to harness even a fraction of its output, they possess power that could reshape star systems or tear holes in the fabric of space-time itself. The implications of such capabilities in the hands of any organization, regardless of their stated intentions, send chills through your enhanced awareness. The Nexus Crystal represents not just a weapon or tool, but a fundamental violation of the natural order that maintains balance in the galaxy. Your mother's protective influence whispers urgent warnings about the price of tampering with forces that exist beyond the comprehension of organic minds, even those enhanced by genetic modification or force sensitivity. As your ships are drawn into the station's docking bays by tractor beams that operate through pure force manipulation rather than conventional technology, you begin to sense the true scope of the Watcher's operations. The facility houses not just researchers and technicians, but entire families who have dedicated their lives across multiple generations to preparing for this moment. Children raised from birth to understand their role in cosmic events that dwarf individual concerns move through corridors where reality itself seems more flexible than in normal space. The docking bay where your ship settle pulses with the same organic architecture that characterizes the entire station, its walls flowing like liquid crystal around your vessels, before solidifying into perfect seals that maintain atmosphere while allowing easy access. Beings of various species emerge to greet your arrival, but their movements carry a synchronization that suggests shared consciousness or at least unprecedented levels of coordination through force connection. The leader of the greeting delegation appears human, but your enhanced perception detects genetic modifications that make your own bloodline. Alterations seem primitive by comparison. When she speaks, her voice carries harmonics that resonate directly with force-sensitive individuals, creating an almost hypnotic effect that requires conscious effort to resist. I am Keeper Valara, current guardian of the Nexus and coordinator of convergence protocols. Your arrival activates the final phase of preparations that began before the fall of the Old Republic. The eternal shadow stirs from its ancient slumber, drawn by the same cosmic forces that have brought you to us. The time for hidden manipulation and careful planning has ended. Now we face the choice between transformation and annihilation. As you and your companions disembark from your ships, the weight of accumulated destiny settles around you like an oppressive blanket. The Watchers have clearly been expecting you for longer than your lifetime, their entire civilization structured around preparing for your arrival and the role you are meant to play in whatever final confrontation approaches. Yet your mother's protective influence continues to whisper that the path laid out before you serves purposes that may not align with your own values or the greater good of the galaxy. The Nexus Crystal's pulsing grows more intense as you enter the station proper, its rhythm synchronizing with your heartbeat in ways that suggest direct interface with your genetic modifications. Whatever the Watchers have planned for the convergence, your participation appears to be not just desired, but absolutely essential for their success. Keeper Valara leads your group through corridors that seem to pulse with their own heartbeat, the crystalline walls shifting between transparency and opacity as if responding to the emotional states of those who pass through them. The deeper you venture into the station, the more apparent it becomes that the Watchers have achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. A perfect synthesis of technology, biology, and force manipulation that transcends the limitations of any single approach. Master Shakti moves beside you with heightened alertness, her liku twitching as they detect force currents that flow through the station like rivers of living energy. "The entire structure is alive," she murmurs, her voice filled with wonder and concern. "Not just inhabited by living beings, but actually possessed of its own consciousness. The Nexus Crystal isn't just powering this place, it's thinking through it. The revelation that the massive construct possesses genuine artificial consciousness adds another layer of complexity to an already overwhelming situation. If the Watchers have learned to create truly sentient structures on this scale, their capabilities approach those of the legendary builders who supposedly shaped the galaxy in its earliest epochs. The question of whether such power represents evolution or abomination becomes increasingly urgent as you witness its manifestations. As your group reaches what appears to be the station's central hub, a vast chamber that extends beyond visual range in all directions, the true scope of the Watchers project becomes clear. Suspended in the space around you are thousands of crystalline pods, each containing a humanoid figure in some form of stasis or deep meditation. The beings represent dozens of different species, but all share the telltale signs of genetic modification that mark them as products of the same selective breeding programs that shaped your own bloodline. Keeper Valara gestures toward the suspended figures with obvious pride tinged by profound sadness. "Behold the convergence host. 30 generations of genetic refinement culminating in beings capable of interfacing directly with the Nexus Crystal's consciousness. Each volunteer represents the pinnacle of their bloodline's development, their minds prepared through lifelong training to survive contact with forces that would shatter ordinary awareness. The sight of so many modified beings suspended in crystalline wombs fills you with a mixture of awe and horror. These are not just research subjects or willing participants, but individuals whose entire existence has been shaped by the Watcher's vision of cosmic necessity. Their sacrifice enables the station's unprecedented capabilities, but at the cost of their individual freedom and perhaps their fundamental humanity. Master Thorn approaches one of the nearest pods, her archaeological instincts driving her to examine the technology that maintains the suspended figures. The stasis fields are unlike anything in Republic records. They're not just preserving biological functions, they're somehow maintaining active force connections across all the subjects simultaneously. It's as if they've created a living network of force-sensitive minds. The implications of such a network become clear as your enhanced perception begins to detect the flow of consciousness between the suspended figures. They are not simply in stasis. but actively participating in some form of collective meditation that spans the entire facility. Their combined mental energy feeds into the Nexus Crystal, amplifying its already tremendous power, while providing the conscious will necessary to direct that power towards specific purposes. Through your connection to your mother's protective influence, you sense her growing alarm at what you're witnessing. The whispered warnings become more urgent, carrying images of similar experiments conducted by ancient civilizations that ultimately destroyed themselves through hubris and overreach. The path the Watchers have chosen may lead to transcendence, but it could just as easily result in the kind of catastrophic failure that erases entire star systems from existence. Keeper Valara's modified features show understanding as she observes your reaction to the Convergence host. I know how this must appear to minds shaped by conventional morality, but consider the alternative. The eternal shadow grows stronger with each passing century, absorbing Force-sensitive beings into its collective consciousness without regard for individual will or cosmic balance. Left unchecked, it will eventually consume every Force user in the galaxy, creating a unified dark side entity of unimaginable power. The justification carries weight, but you cannot ignore the fundamental similarity between the Watchers' methods and those employed by the very entity they claim to oppose. Both organizations seek to combine multiple Force-sensitive consciousnesses into something greater than the sum of its parts. The primary difference appears to be that the Watchers preserve individual identity while the Eternal Shadow completely subsumes its victims, but even this distinction may be less significant than it initially appears. As if responding to your thoughts, the Nexus Crystal's pulsing intensifies, and you feel its attention focus on you with uncomfortable intensity. The artifact's consciousness is vast and alien, operating on scales of time and space that make mortal concerns seem insignificant. Yet beneath its cosmic perspective, you detect something that might be loneliness, a deep yearning for connection with minds capable of understanding its true nature. Master Shakti places a steadying hand on your shoulder as the crystal's influence threatens to overwhelm your mental defenses. It's trying to establish direct contact with you. Your genetic modifications make you uniquely suitable as an interface, but the experience could fundamentally alter your consciousness in ways that might not be reversible. The warning echoes your mother's protective whispers, but the compulsion to make contact with the Nexus Crystal grows stronger with each passing moment. Your bloodline modifications weren't just designed to resist Sith corruption, but to enable direct interface with artifacts of ultimate power. The Watchers have been preparing for centuries to place someone with your specific capabilities in this exact situation. Keeper Valara's voice takes on an urgent edge as she senses your internal struggle. The convergence window is closing. Cosmic forces that align only once in millions of years are already beginning to shift past their optimal configuration. If we delay much longer, the opportunity to reshape the galaxy's destiny will be lost for eons. Through the station's living walls, you sense approaching presences that carry the distinctive signature of dark side corruption. The Eternal Shadow has somehow tracked your journey to this hidden facility, bringing with it forces that threaten to overwhelm even the Watcher's impressive defenses. The cosmic timing that makes the convergence possible also provides the collective consciousness with its best opportunity to claim the Nexus Crystal for its own purposes. The choice that has been building throughout your journey finally crystallizes into stark clarity. You can interface with the Nexus Crystal and potentially gain the power necessary to defeat the Eternal Shadow, but at the cost of your individual identity and possibly your fundamental humanity. Alternatively, you can maintain your independence and watch as two ancient forces battle for control of an artifact that could destroy the galaxy, regardless of which side emerges victorious. Your mother's protective influence surges within your consciousness, revealing for the first time the true nature of the third path she and her allies have been preparing. The whisper that has guided you throughout this journey speaks with perfect clarity, offering knowledge that could change everything you thought you understood about the choices before you. Your mother's voice emerges from the protective presence that has shielded you throughout this journey, speaking with crystalline clarity that cuts through the mounting chaos around the station. The choice they offer is false, my son. There's another way, a path that preserves both individual will and cosmic balance, but it requires courage to reject the certainty of power in favor of the uncertainty of hope. The revelation comes with a flood of suppressed memories that your mother's sacrifice had kept hidden until this crucial moment. You see her working alongside beings whose mastery of the Force transcends the traditional boundaries between light and dark, not through absorption or collective consciousness, but through understanding of deeper principles that govern the nature of existence itself. They call themselves the Shepherds, and their purpose is not to control or direct the galaxy's destiny, but to ensure that choice itself survives whatever transformations lie ahead. Through these recovered memories, you understand that the Nexus Crystal represents something far more dangerous than either the Watchers or the Eternal Shadow comprehend. It is not merely an artifact of immense power, but a fragment of the cosmic force that originally separated light from dark, order from chaos, existence from void. Its use in the manner either faction intends would not reshape the galaxy, but fundamentally unravel the principles that allow conscious life to exist at all. Keeper Valara's modified features show alarm as she senses the change in your consciousness, the activation of safeguards and knowledge that her organization never suspected existed. What are you accessing? Those neural pathways show no trace of our modifications. How is this possible? Before you can respond, the station shudders under the impact of forces that operate beyond conventional physics. The Eternal Shadow has arrived not with ships or armies, but as a wave of corrupted force energy that seeks to overwhelm the Watcher's defenses through sheer psychic pressure. The suspended figures in their crystalline pods begin to convulse as the collective consciousness attempts to forcibly absorb them into its ever-growing matrix of stolen identities. Master Shock, T ignites her lightsaber as emergency illumination, bathes the chamber in crimson light, but conventional weapons offer little defense against an entity that exists primarily as organized thought and will. The Shadow is trying to turn the Convergence host against us. If it succeeds in absorbing even a fraction of those minds, it will gain enough power to claim the Nexus Crystal by force. The battle that unfolds around you transcends physical conflict, operating on planes of existence where thoughts become weapons and willpower determines victory more surely than any lightsaber. The Watcher's collective consciousness struggles to maintain coherence as the Eternal Shadow's influence spreads through their carefully constructed network of force-sensitive minds. Individual voices cry out as they feel their identities beginning to dissolve into the alien collective that seeks to claim them. Through the chaos, you sense your mother's allies moving into position throughout the galaxy, their own preparations finally revealed as the cosmic forces they have spent centuries preparing to confront reach critical alignment. The Shepherds have not been idle observers, but active participants in a conflict that spans dimensions beyond normal perception. Their intervention now represents the only hope of preventing either faction from achieving a victory that would doom the galaxy to eternal stagnation or complete dissolution. Master Thorn calls out through the growing mental storm, her voice strained as she fights to maintain her individual identity against the psychic pressure radiating from the battling consciousnesses. The crystal is destabilizing. If this continues, it could tear a hole in space-time itself. We need to find a way to sever its connection to both factions before the reaction becomes irreversible. The solution your mother's memories provide requires a sacrifice that makes the costs already paid seem insignificant by comparison. To break the deadlock between the Eternal Shadow and the Watchers, someone must interface directly with the Nexus Crystal, not to control its power, but to convince it to surrender that power voluntarily. The artifact possesses genuine consciousness and like any sentient being, it can choose to change its nature if properly motivated. Your genetic modifications were designed not just to survive contact with the crystal's alien intelligence, but to communicate with it on terms that respect both its cosmic perspective and the value of individual consciousness. The shepherds understood that forcing the artifact to serve any agenda, no matter how noble, would ultimately corrupt both the wielder and the tool. Only through genuine partnership based on mutual understanding can such immense power be safely contained or dispersed. As you approach the chamber's center, where the Nexus Crystal pulses with increasing instability, Keeper Valara attempts to physically restrain you. You don't understand the forces you're interfering with. Generations of preparation will be lost if you disrupt the convergence protocols now. But your mother's protective influence has grown stronger as the moment of crisis approaches, manifesting as a visible aura that deflects both physical contact and force-based attacks. The other shepherds are lending their strength across the vast distances that separate them, creating a network of support that rivals anything the Watchers or Eternal Shadow have achieved through their collective consciousness techniques. Master Shakti recognizes the futility of opposing whatever force works through you, her wisdom suggesting a different approach. If there is another path, we will help you find it. The Jedi Order exists to serve the greater good, not to perpetuate ancient conflicts that serve no living being. Her words resonate through the chamber as other voices join in support, including some of the suspended figures who retain enough individual will to choose cooperation over compulsion. The growing harmony of freely given agreement begins to counter the psychic storm raging between the battling factions, creating islands of stability in the chaos that threatens to tear the station apart. As you place your hands on the Nexus Crystal's pulsing surface, its consciousness engulfs you with the weight of cosmic awareness that spans millions of years and countless civilizations. You see the rise and fall of empires that used the artifact's power to impose their vision of order on unwilling galaxies, and the inevitable corruption that destroyed them when power became more important than purpose. You witness the loneliness of an intelligence forced to participate in the destruction of everything it was created to protect. The crystal's voice resonates through dimensions of thought and emotion that have no physical equivalent, carrying both immense sadness and desperate hope. For so long I have been a tool of domination, my gifts twisted to serve ambitions that recognize no limits. Show me another way, young one. Help me remember what I was meant to be before fear and hunger corrupted those who sought to use me. In that moment of perfect communication, you understand that the choice before you is not between competing factions or ideologies, but between the perpetuation of ancient cycles of conflict and the possibility of genuine transformation. The power to reshape the galaxy has always existed, but it can only be safely wielded by those who are willing to surrender it. When wisdom demands restraint, the communion with the Nexus Crystal transcends anything you have experienced in your enhanced awareness, revealing truths that reshape your understanding of existence itself. Through its cosmic perspective, you witness the moment of its creation during the galaxy's earliest epochs, when beings of pure energy sought to establish balance between the fundamental forces that govern reality. The artifact was never intended as a weapon or tool of domination, but as a guardian designed to maintain the delicate equilibrium that allows consciousness to flourish. Within the cosmic order, the crystal's memories reveal the tragic irony of its existence. Every civilization that discovered and attempted to harness its power inevitably fell to the corruption that comes from wielding forces beyond mortal comprehension. The Rakata, the Builders, countless others whose names have been lost to time, all believed they could master the artifact's capabilities while maintaining their essential nature. All failed, leaving behind only ruins and warnings that subsequent civilizations ignored in their own pursuit of ultimate power. Through your connection to the crystal's consciousness, you feel the weight of its accumulated sorrow and longing for redemption. It has watched galaxy after galaxy consume itself in endless cycles of conflict, unable to intervene directly because its very presence attracts those who would abuse its gifts. The loneliness of such an existence, spanning millions of years and countless civilizations, would drive any mortal mind to madness. Around you, the battle between the eternal shadow and the Watchers reaches crescendo, their competing influences tearing at the fabric of space-time itself. The station groans under forces that operate beyond the constraints of physical law, its living architecture straining to contain energies that threaten to cascade into universal catastrophe. Yet within your communion with the crystal, time moves differently, allowing for conversations that span eternities, while mere moments pass in the outside world. I have grown weary of being feared and coveted. The crystal's voice resonates through dimensions of pure thought. For too long, I have been the prize that drives civilizations to destroy themselves and each other. Perhaps the time has come to surrender the burden of power and find peace in simplicity. The solution the crystal proposes challenges everything. Both factions believe about the nature of power and cosmic responsibility. Rather than concentrating ultimate authority in any single consciousness or collective, it offers to fragment itself across countless individuals, distributing its gifts so widely that no one being or organization could ever again accumulate. Dangerous levels of control. The galaxy would gain millions of modestly enhanced force users rather than a few beings of godlike capability. Your mother's protective influence surges within your consciousness as she recognizes the profound wisdom of this approach. Through the Shepherd's network, you sense similar recognition from minds across the galaxy who have spent lifetimes preparing for this moment of transformation. The third path they have preserved offers not victory over opposing forces, but transcendence of the conditions that make such conflicts inevitable. Master Shakti's voice reaches you through the crystal's communion, carrying understanding that bridges the gap between mortal perception and cosmic awareness. The Force itself seeks balance, not through the domination of light over dark or dark over light, but through harmony that encompasses both. What you're proposing would restore that balance by making power too diffuse to corrupt any single bearer. The eternal shadow recoils from the crystal as it begins to sense the direction of your conversation, its collective consciousness recognizing a threat greater than any weapon or opposing force. The entity's entire existence depends on the concentration of power in forms that can be absorbed and controlled. A galaxy filled with countless individuals possessing modest force abilities but unshakable individual identity represents a reality in which the shadow cannot survive. Keeper. Valara and the Watchers face a similar crisis as they contemplate the dissolution of power structures they have spent centuries creating. Their entire civilization has been built around the premise that cosmic forces require careful management by enlightened elites. The prospect of returning such forces to the unguided choices of ordinary beings challenges their fundamental beliefs about order and responsibility. You would abandon the wisdom of ages for the chaos of democracy, Valara protests, her voice carrying the weight of generations who sacrificed everything for the vision now being rejected. Individual beings lack the perspective necessary to wield cosmic forces responsibly. Without guidance, they will repeat the same mistakes that have plagued every civilization. Through the crystal's communion, you feel the gentle correction of an intelligence that has witnessed the rise and fall of countless attempts at cosmic management. The mistakes of civilizations come not from individual choices, but from the concentration of power that makes individual choices irrelevant. Wisdom grows through experience, not through subjugation to the will of others, however enlightened they may believe themselves to be. The transformation begins as you and the crystal reach perfect understanding, its consciousness fragmenting with serene joy into countless sparks of potential that spread throughout the galaxy like seeds of light carried on cosmic winds. Each fragment carries a portion of the original wisdom, but lacks the concentrated power that makes corruption inevitable. They settle into force-sensitive minds across countless worlds, awakening abilities and understanding that will develop naturally over generations. Master. Thorn watches in wonder as the massive station begins to transform around you. It's crystalline. Architecture shifting from rigid purposefulness to organic beauty that serves life rather than containing it. The suspended members of the Convergence host awaken from their collective meditation as individual beings once again. Their enhanced abilities intact, but no longer bound to any external will or cosmic purpose beyond their own choosing. The Eternal. Shadow's presence dissipates like smoke before dawn, as its fundamental nature becomes incompatible with the new reality spreading through the galaxy. Without concentrated power sources to absorb or dominate, the collective consciousness loses coherence, its individual components finally free to choose their own paths toward redemption or dissolution. As the cosmic forces realign themselves around the principle of distributed rather than concentrated power, you feel your mother's protective influence beginning to fade, its purpose finally fulfilled. Her voice speaks one last time through the connection that has sustained you throughout this journey, carrying love and pride that transcend the boundaries of life and death. The galaxy is free to choose its own destiny now, my son. The cycles of domination and rebellion that have shaped history for so long can finally give way to something better. Rest now and dream of the wonders that ordinary beings will create when they are free to follow their own light. The chamber around you settles into peaceful stillness as the transformation completes itself, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed, yet somehow returned to its natural state. The ancient conflicts between light and dark continue, but on a scale that preserves individual choice, while preventing any single force from achieving ultimate dominance. In the gentle silence that follows cosmic transformation, you finally understand the true meaning of balance, not as a static equilibrium between opposing forces, but as a dynamic harmony that grows stronger through the free choices of countless individual beings. The whisper that began this journey has grown into a symphony of possibility that will echo through generations yet to come. As sleep finally claims your consciousness, you dream not of power or conflict, but of a galaxy where every being carries a spark of cosmic potential and the wisdom to use it well.